There are days when I wake up with what feels like a hangover, but it's not because I haven't been drinking the night before.
Yeah, some days I have just a lot of dizziness, and then some days I just have real difficulty breathing.
There's lots of stories of brain fog, so being unable to think clearly, mixing up words.
Forgetting words.
Forgetting names.
For people who have long COVID, it is genuine, it is part of what is happening to them, and it does need to be managed. So I think general practitioners or GPs, who are often the first stop in terms of medical care, have a responsibility with this.
Every morning in the small North Island town of Te Aroha, 66-year-old Maria McBurney goes for her daily walk. It's a ritual she's been doing religiously for the past 9 years.
It's a good thing I have dogs, because they're my excuse to go for walks, and I go for long walks. I'd probably cover, and I don't know what the numbers are, but I'd probably cover about 4 rugby fields, or might be bigger. And coffee at the end of my walk is usually an incentive.
But ever since she caught COVID in March, her morning walks have become a struggle.
I get breathless about halfway, but I still force myself to do my walk.
It's been months now since she's tested positive for COVID, but her body just still hasn't recovered.
The dizzy spells are just relentless. Needles in my legs, headaches, brain fog. I'm fatigued. I can feel it through my whole body. Eating's difficult. Most days I can't taste what I'm eating. I can't smell it.
But the worst part of it for Maria is the depression.
It's the way that it happens. It just... Yesterday was a good example. I just didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to do anything. Wanted to crawl back into bed again. I hadn't even been for my walk.
All of these symptoms are unusual for Maria. Pre-COVID, her daily life was full and active, even though she's now semi-retired.
I was always doing something, whether it was working or at my laptop firing off emails. One of the things I had said before I retired, that I was just going to sit back and take it easy. And everybody who knows me intimately go, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. You know, so.
This has kind of forced you to, almost.
Almost, and I'm still fighting that. I'm trying to force myself to not become a recluse and just stay inside my house. I don't want to do that, but it's hard. It's a battle.
Filippo Katavake McGrath also lived a full and busy life before contracting COVID in March.
I bounce out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, do yoga, meditation, go to the gym, into busy day at work, back-to-back meetings, running around socialising with people in the office, going out for friends with lunch. Everything was sort of, you know, bang, 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 bang.
But now, everyday life for Filippo has changed significantly.
My world is way slower. I can't walk very fast, so I had to invest in a walking stick. And I was in having a blood test, and there was this young Māori woman and her moko. I sort of sided up and said, excuse me, can I get past? And she was like, aroha mai, kumai koro, hara mai. I'm like, and I was walking past going, koro? Koro? I'm 40.
Filippo has an executive-level public service job. Long COVID means it's now all done from a lazy boy in the lounge.
How has it affected your mahi?
We've been negotiating about how I might step back from work to allow me to recover. But it's actually a really exposing thing to do because on one hand, it's really lovely that my workplace want me to have less stress, but my bank still wants 100% of the mortgage repayment. 50% of the income, but not 50% of the obligations. And so it actually creates another layer of stress that no one intends to happen.
Lynn Russell and Mona Jeffries are researchers at Te Herenga Waka Victoria University. They've spoken to a number of people like Filippo and Maria. It's part of a wider study commissioned by the Ministry of Health, looking at the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 in Aotearoa.
So having had COVID and still having symptoms at 3 months is what we're defining as long COVID. So the study wasn't only about long COVID, but it was always our intention that that was probably the most interesting and important thing to follow up.
People in the study had similar symptoms to Filippo and Maria. Fatigue and brain fog were the most common. For many, their experience of long COVID was so debilitating that it had a major impact on their sense of identity.
Identity is such an important part of who we are, particularly as Māori, knowing who we are, where we fit into the world, how we relate to everybody around us. COVID is changing that for people. It's changing who they are within their family structure, roles that people might have played before that were big. They're not physically able to do that anymore, so they start to wonder about where their place is in the world.
Lynn and Mona also asked people about their experiences with the medical fraternity and seeking answers about their condition, and the results weren't good.
We've heard stories of people not being believed, of GPs not knowing what to do, so although they may say, yes, you've got long COVID, then not offering any suggestive solution.
So many, particularly of our Māori participants in the study, talked about just wanting to be heard, and so that is heard from people that are going to believe that what they're experiencing is a real thing, being heard by the medical professionals to be able to support them.
A number of Māori in the study also talked about just wanting to have some kind of diagnosis from their doctor. But for many experiencing long COVID symptoms, getting that diagnosis has been a struggle, including for Maria.
And so tell me what your experiences have been like speaking to the doctor about this. What have they told you?
Skipped over the topic, just ever so subtly when I mentioned long COVID. And that's okay. That's okay. Perhaps our medical fraternity, they don't know anything yet, but he just skipped over it.
So you've explained your symptoms to your doctor.
Yeah.
Well, what are the suggested sort of reasons from him?
Nothing. Nothing.
I think one of the problems we've got with long COVID at the moment, it's very ill-defined. I think there is a real need for research on this to clarify it.
Brian Betty is the Medical Director of the Royal New Zealand College of General Practitioners. He says one of the troubles with long COVID for doctors at the moment is that there isn't yet a clear definitive test for it.
There's a real need for very clear guidelines and messaging to the general practice sector in particular on the definitions and long COVID. Because as you know, we don't have a blood test or anything we can do to say this is long COVID.
All doctors have to work with right now is a diagnosis of exclusion, where they have to rule out all other possible causes first.
Most people that we see with COVID, their symptoms resolve by about 3 months. Okay, most people are very mild. So long COVID itself is after that 3-month mark. I think there is a genuine hesitancy on some doctors' part to label something too early. Okay, if that makes sense, because that sometimes can be a problem, but you do need to do it when you're certain. So if there is uncertainty there, I think it does take time sometimes. And I think that type of experience for a patient is distressing.
Brian says a trusting relationship between a patient and their doctor is crucial when it comes to understanding long COVID.
And so what sort of thing can be done by GPs in Aotearoa to help their long COVID patients?
Yeah. So the first thing is to accept that long COVID is real, to keep abreast of the latest guidance and research online, and it is emerging, it is shifting, as all these things do, to listen to the patient and respect what the patient is saying is really important, and to actually work with the patient to start to move through what they are experiencing.
For Filippo, it took 4 to 5 different doctors to get a long COVID diagnosis. In the end, it was Filippo's GP that made the call.
He looked at all of my notes going, so all this other stuff has come back fine, but these are your symptoms. And I think he just made a line call and said, this is long COVID. Yeah.
And what was that like for you?
Well, it was reassuring because it just gave me something to work with. It gave me a set of questions. It gave me something to say, right, I have this, what are the things I can do about it? And in that conversation with my doctor, he admitted that the medical system didn't really have a lot of information.
The medical literature and guidance around long COVID is emerging, thanks to researchers like Lynn and Mona. But it's a frustrating wait for many who are currently affected by the condition. In the meantime, both Filippo and Maria have found solace in an online long COVID support group.
It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. There's no judgment, there's no eye rolling. There are members who nod their heads when they, hear about your symptoms. They go, oh, that's me too.
There's this implication that you've got long COVID, everything's got to be about sympathy. And along the way, you sort of forget that actually people with senses of humour get long COVID. And so it's nice to have a group of people that you can laugh together because you all share an experience. That we can all say, okay, so what's the funniest word that we've missed in a sentence? And what's the most embarrassing person that we've said something stupid in front of? And just being able to see those like little laugh emojis, it's another part of reminding me that I'm human.